I don't practice for the competition. I walk right into competition begin. I start a choreograph it right there on the floor.
Wow.
Everybody love it. My energy flowing, all my technique connecting and performing, jumping around, flipping around, and everybody love it. I know you guys love it this. So I don't have to practice this. I can go just right flowing. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So then everybody recognized, I said, that's Master Hong. Oh my goodness. Then I have all teenager follows me, then asking for autograph, some visiting my school to watching my classes.
Grandmaster Hong, welcome to our podcast. So glad to have you. How have you been, sir?
I've been doing great. You know, we all dealing with the COVID pandemics, and life is a little struggling.
Yeah.
But however, we don't have a choice. It's a new normal. These generations, we have to survive.
Yeah.
But we have to mind and body stay healthy to survive this pandemic.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Making us tougher, you know? So Grandmaster Hong, I've known you almost my whole life. I started training with you when I was 5 years old, but most of my students, they have no idea who you are. Can you tell them a little bit about your history, how you got started in Taekwondo, and like how long you've been training and what rank you are? I know you're a 9th degree black belt in Taekwondo, but I know you have other certification and whatnot.
Yes, and well, I studied Taekwondo, which is 60s.
Wow.
Which is I started with the Tangsudo Budokwan in 60s.
Wow.
And during 60s, and because all my colleagues, friends, buddies in the Tangsudo Budokwan, so there was popular friends gathering. That's what I started, which is that school is the Grandmaster Chuck Norris, and he starts at that school, same school.
Wow.
And Grandmaster Jin Shin, he is the instructor of me and Chuck Norris.
Wow.
Then later is the Taekwondo Cheongdo-gwan is right next to my house. So I switched to the dojang. I studied Taekwondo because it's very convenient for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I started teaching early 70s, assisting and helping my instructors and started teaching.
Mm.
I never have a professional my whole career for the teaching. Mm. I love Taekwondo training, enjoy my career, my hobby, and my way of life. So I studied Taekwondo first before I come to the States, and I started jumping instructing. So I became an instructor at the Taekwondo Cheongdo-gwan, so the early 70s.
Wow.
And then I never earned no salary, anything. I teach volunteers, volunteer instructors, teaching every day, 6 days this week.
Yes,
and love it. Never thought about the money, and I never thought about why he didn't give me money. And then I came to States. So I came to States in 1982, arriving in Providence, Rhode Island. And in mid-July, then I opened my school December in Providence, Rhode Island.
Wow.
That's my first dojang.
Yeah.
So the dojang is the buildings are still there.
Yeah.
Then I opened second school. Then I opened another school, which is right now. And that's what you study. That was my third school.
One of the things I really want to talk to you about today, one thing I think you have a unique perspective on, because like you said, you've been training since the 60s, is how has Taekwondo changed over the years? Now, I know you have had a tournament at in Rhode Island, the Rhode Island State Tournament, I believe, right? For
Yes, I started my tournament in 1984.
1984. Okay.
Yeah, in Brown University. That's what I start
From my
my
perspective,
first school.
very long time. Before I was alive, I was born in '85. So you've probably, by having a tournament in the same location for a long time, training both in Korea and in here and in America, probably have a pretty good perspective on how Taekwondo has changed over the years. And have you seen any changes? I know what you do seems to be pretty traditional and kind of staying true to the roots. Is that true? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yes or no. The competition has been, it's not like it before. Before, it's not many schools, and that we instructors, we well knowing each other. So they all come support.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's so many different schools, then they're doing something else, and the taekwondo trends little change and little different development. But it's my colleague still support, and I have a lot of the young masters love my tournament, and we just like another celebration for the taekwondo students.
Mm-hmm.
That then comes in, especially my tournaments. I decide different. We used to giving medals of first, second, third places only. And you got 20 competitors, one divisions, and 3 kids get the medals, and then all other students get no souvenirs, and maybe something participating certificates.
Yeah.
Then a long time ago, I decided, let me put it this way, because we don't look for. I run before the USA Taekwondo, before we changed the USTU, US Taekwondo, United States Taekwondo Union. I was the state president, so I have the elimination state tournament that follow the regulation and rule. Then USTU's and changed the name USA Taekwondo. I have been involved for many years. I'm still lifetime members in USA Taekwondo, and I started running tournament of my own private tournament, invitational tournament. Then divisions I divided, and so all students having participating have get awards differently. And the reason is that students come here having fun, experience, and meet other students, and they challenging each other and get a great experience. Plus, the tournament gives great confidences. So every student get the confidence, and the parents, the grandparents come together. They got the all winning feeling. So the competition is not like a USA Taekwondo elimination. We all participating students is become a champion. They have some negative opinion to some very limited student, the instructors does, but that's, I want to run that way. That's my way.
Yeah.
So who likes to support the tournament? They come to tournaments. But I canceled my tournament, of course, last year. That's my 35th annual tournament.
Is that the last one you do, or is that COVID?
Yeah, this year as well. No, I don't think I'm going to run again.
Yeah, it's got to be hard with COVID and people not able to kind of gather and stuff. So I totally understand.
Yeah, so tournament is as you know, you become the instructing you have on school. It's the students who come to study Taekwondo, how many percentage of the students want to become competitors?
Yeah, not
Maybe my school, maybe 2%, or 1 or 2%. They interesting participating, become Olympians, or become the state or national tournament. But the most other,
how many think they want to be, and then they go to their first tournament. It's not they don't want to do that. That seems very common as well. Like I have a lot of people
yeah,
want to go, and then I take them to the first tournament. Like, oh, well, I don't want to get kicked in the face so many times.
yeah. My younger brother, we family movie here. My younger brother competing national tournament. He's become a runner-up. He beat Hanwon Lee. Master Hanwon Lee. He's in Denver. I know him well. And then he went to the finals and he lost very tightly. But the same thing, he's not interested in competition anymore. But competition is beautiful. I competing myself when I came to States.
Yeah.
I competing not Taekwondo, it's open karate tournament. Because there's no Taekwondo tournament around here.
Yeah.
And I said to my students the open karate tournament, karate, they form and different, all kind of different, they created in a choreographic forms. So Taekwondo, very simple form, they didn't recognize. So my students always they don't get the prizes. They look so beautiful, nice and snap down and punch. Yeah. And they don't recognize. They love to see performing, swinging around and little dancing around, tumbling, stuff like this. So one day I say, well, let me go in tumbling a little bit for them. So I went to I'll know everyone's just at the time open karate tournament is a lot of famous guys later. Cindy Rock and John Chung and all those become later they become actresses. They're competing. And I was in Taekwondo divisions. Then I don't practice for the competition. I walk right into competition begin. I started choreograph it right there on the floor.
Wow.
And everybody loved it. My energy flowing, all my technique connecting and performing, jumping around, flipping around, and everybody loved it. I know you guys love it this, so I don't have to practice this. I can go just right flowing. That's beautiful. Yeah. So then everybody recognized. I said, "That's Master Hong." Oh my goodness! Then I have all teenager follows me, then asking for autograph, some visiting my school, to watching my classes. Those are my old memories.
So you're talking a little bit about the forms and how your forms are kind of simple and some of the karate forms are a little bit more complicated and whatnot. That's been something that I've, when I was over in Korea, I trained under Saw Young-Ye, who's a 7-time world champion, and a lot of other really good Pumse coaches. And even amongst them, they were kind of frustrated with how simple the Taekwondo patterns are. And there seems to be this big push towards making them a little bit more complicated. There's actually some new forms that kind of been coming down the pipeline. How do you feel about things like that?
I think it's every instructor, Taekwondo, the masters did. They've been thinking about a long time ago, because right now Kuki-Ones, they talk. We have a new Kuki-One president that elected, the Grandmaster Lee. Yes, I'm personally chatting with my text messages, Facebooks, and before he elected as well. And he talking about something you want to work together. So I will support him to I've been talking to him about this, what Taekwondo futures are.
Yeah.
Taekwondo, because 5 years old, 70 years old, we have the same Pumse study.
Mhm.
So we've been talking about we need some children's Pumse,
Mm.
and adult who's 60s, 70s, and we needed those seniors Pumse.
Mhm.
And mid ages, we needed some different Pumse.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. We need about 3 different Pumse.
Mm.
But however, still, we've been training one Pumse for all ages for the years. And you know why we have the Pumse study? The Pumse studies learn your patience, develop your patience. Without patience, you cannot complete it, you Pumse. Because
Yeah.
you one action, you're not completed it, and you go another. Because
Mhm.
that's record of discipline too.
Yeah.
So Pumse is more important than sparring. That's what I thought personally.
Mhm.
So Pumse will control your patience. You want to get the patience. If you don't have a discipline, and you cannot have a patience.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's what Pumse teaches us, to develop your discipline and patience.
Mhm.
And if your missions must accomplish it. You
Mhm.
feel it's you finish it, and you can go next move.
Yeah.
That what control to your pumse is, you mentioned in breathing, and breathing starts. You start with the breathing starts, and guiding consciously. You start breathing and complete. You're gonna finish it, and you breathe out, finish exhaling.
Mhm.
And there's a whole total balances. So you find the harmonies.
Mm.
So you got total find the balance, the harmonies, and you accomplish your statement. That elements is not only Taekwondo, it's talking about the life. You have to have that attitude, and that's you can adapting to the other opportunity, that mentality, so you all have that success in your life.
Absolutely. So, what are your thoughts on the changes that have been made to the Taekwondo Kumse? Like, do you do the Pogway or the Taeguk, or you do both of them?
I used to do both, and I'm just teaching Taekwondo. The students, the children have one Taekwondo Pumse is still struggling, and after you change the belt, then forget about the other Pumse, previous Pumse. I have to teach them again. So I'm not too crazy about the teaching many different Pumse, but as an adult, love to practice Parge.
Yeah.
Because Parge Pumse is a different taste and different philosophy than Taekwondo Pumse.
Yeah. Yeah. I like them both, but I personally like the Pogway a little more. I like the deeper stances and the more powerful technique. But with the Taeguk forms, as they've kind of matured, and especially since the Pumse has kind of come onto the world stage. We kind of started out with our Karugi, and then we kind of started bringing forms more into the fore. Since that we've been doing that, the forms have kind of changed a little bit. Like there's a little higher stances, narrower stances, less breathing, kind of a focus on like full extension, like straightening your arm completely. What are your thoughts on that? Do you like that, or?
Yes, Taekwondo Pumse, you just mentioned it, the short walking stances and fighting walking stances. We have all little different short stances, natural stances
Mhm.
that develop. I think it become the the Taekwondo very started sports and competition. The stance is making a little change.
Mhm.
So you start walking with the actions. You're walking with the striking, walking with the blocking. You know that what difference. And traditional form is front stance and back stances
Mhm.
and horse riding stances. So
Mhm.
you get your stances are skewed down and block. That's what I mentioned it to you. One move, finish your job. But competition is one, second, third, fourth, five, sixth, and you have opportunity to go follow through the actions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's two different little philosophy in Pumse, Taegu Pumse and Paga Pumse, and other more before traditional Pumse as well.
Gotcha. What do you think about the Karugi? So the Karugi's changed a lot, back in the day, probably when you started, it was like 1 point.
Well, before go Kerugi, it's Pumse ended up all time is, in Korea, I was saying here, Korea doesn't have a Pumse competition. Mm-hmm. And Pumse competition, the Korea, we influenced from here to Korea adopting.
Yeah.
And started Taekwondo, which is the ironically, the most the great instructors, masters, grandmasters in United States, they all came to United States. Mm-hmm. Just like after World War II, all science and the professor and the people moved to the United States. It's the same difference. Mm-hmm. So Taekwondo developed in United States tremendously, and it's get the totally different change, and have a more opportunity, more open to the publics. And my times we have a lot of adults. You don't see many kids in classes. We get full house adult, in classes. But that's what it happens. Now it's some schools, all kids, no adults, not many adults. I think a lot of school does. And they tried, how can I recruit adult students? Yep. I have a lot of adult students. Yeah. The families come together, other classes are always big. So what was your question?
My question is, what do you think about the new Karugi rules?
Karugis.
I'll just give you a little bit of my flavor. So, when I started doing Taekwondo, it was 1 point to the body, 2 points to the head. And then even before that, probably in your time, it's just 1 point for everything.
Yeah. Well, it's a little more exciting because they try making the game change so people get more participating and it's more interesting, and then they want to try keep the Olympics for a long time, forever. So that's what it is. The game change, the rule change, so making people more interesting. It's nothing more than that.
Yeah.
So I like it, but the dilemma is now, the flickering and bang, you're just touching, there's no value of the techniques. So now it's just, a lot of all participants, all the athletes complaining they hate it. It's the rule change, they don't like it. They keep talking about it. But, what it is that generation to generation, they change. But that's only in competition, the 1 or 2% of athletes in that area. But most of the majority Taekwondo practitioner, we still practice old traditional way.
Yeah, it's true. The only thing is, those are the people that everyone's looking up to. Those are the top competitors that people are looking up to when they're, kind of like little light sword fencing and stuff like that with their feet. It's a little discouraging. I personally, the rules have gotten so complicated. I kind of lost track of the rules at some point. They're so complicated. You get so many points for doing this particular kick. This particular company, you get more points. It's I can't even keep track of that. Just make it really simple and allow the natural creativity to come out. They try to control the rules so much that now I feel like I'm really playing a game and not defending myself, which I think is what is most interesting to people. I have had on my prospective student survey since I opened a bunch of different things. Why do you want to study Taekwondo? Respect, discipline, blah, blah, blah. I've had Olympic sport on there forever. No one's almost ever checked that. No one's really interested in it as an Olympic sport. But every single time someone checks self-defense, every single time. And so that has to be the main core. you know, or people aren't going to be getting into Taekwondo anymore. That was the reason why Taekwondo has become so prolific all over the world, because it had that focus on self-defense, you know? Anyway, I went on a little
You're right.
tangent there, but I mean,
Yeah, you're right. I agree. And that's the sort of the, yeah, that's,
yeah. But, you know, maybe he'll come back around. I've seen the Kukiwans putting out some new self-defense instructional videos. They have like top level, you know, technicians kind of going around the world teaching self-defense curriculum to law enforcement and stuff. So there's definitely some hopeful things in that.
yeah, I heard the Cookie One, the new president, and they developed develop different curriculums, and they will develop curriculum to supply to the instructors. So the Taekwondo self-defense, the manual as well. And so I think it's have a lot of opportunity future. Cookie One will change for many different ways to support the Taekwondo masters, the Taekwondo schools, and Taekwondo practitioners to get the benefits. So you will see, we will see gonna is change the new president.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, do you know who Ko Bong Soo is?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I lived with him. He was the one who brought me over to Korea. Very close with him and his family, and I'm very indebted to everything he's done for me. He came over to America within a delegation from the Kukiwon, and was kind of traveling through Texas and stopped in, and I was chatting with them. And they had come here to the United States because they were trying to figure out how to get more adults in Taekwondo. And there seems to be a big push towards that, like trying to, you know, of course the kids are going to be really important, and we've kind of cornered that market, but how can we also really corner the adult market? And I think the thing that's going to help in that is refocus on self-defense. Like that is really what those adults are looking for.
That's right. The self-defense is a big topic, and it's very important. I made it manuals a long time ago. Every belt to have the self-defense curriculums, and grappling and self-defense. One step sparring plus self-defense. So that the manuals you have to show to when you're testing, and you sent me one while ago your little booklets about the I remember.
Yeah.
And those I have that too to my students. They must just study every belt, even Korean word, and the parents are struggling. And I told my sons, let's try make it a little easier to students because they're very struggling for every belt testing. But my students masters, and they say, don't touch it as a Grandmaster Hong. Let them get, well, I want to get a little more difficult. So they study more into the philosophy and Korean language as well.
Yeah.
So my school, the students study belt testing. It's not easy. Still, we're keeping the weight, traditional weight. As parents sometimes get smoke out of their head.
Let me ask you a question. You know, I feel like the same way. You know, with some of the younger kids, it can be quite hard to teach them like a full form or to really teach them complicated defenses. But I feel like I can't give up on that because there's got to be a way, and I got to keep racking my brain to become a better teacher and to really get through to them. And I have made a lot of progress. You know, we do things like our review workshop, which kind of prepares them for testing. You know, we do private lessons, so we'll you know, really go one-on-one with them and take them through their curriculum, and those things have really helped to bring the standard up. Sometimes it can be challenging to teach the students, and a lot of times, you know, students will come in and they're like doing these, like, I call them jellyfish push-ups, where they just like their like bodies like sagging, but they're not really working their arms. And I always felt like when I was learning Taekwondo, I was very, very serious. Like I wanted to be like Bruce Lee. I wanted to push myself as hard as I could. And I felt like there were more kids around me that were really pushing themselves. Like at your school when I was young, there were, you know, we did a lot of sparring, and I felt like, you know, it was a little bit more intense than a lot of schools that I've gone to these days. Have you seen a change in the way the kids are approaching their training these days? Are they?
Well, it's my students and my kids, and they love sparring too.
Yeah.
They love sparring, but particularly some students, they don't want to come to sparring classes. So I have a sparring classes, and then who's interesting, they participate in sparring classes. Who's not interesting, you don't have to come to sparring classes.
Have you
So,
have you seen them more or less interest in the sparring?
well, of course, the sparring is, is not majority to popularity.
Mhm.
Is sparring is minimized, very limited of students love sparring. But
Yeah.
sometimes, that you get one bang and students will never come back. I don't want to go Taekwondo. You will see that happens. But we are is a very, very the important job. We are dealing with it.
Mhm.
I was talking to my sons the other day that kids today sign up. We cannot put in regular classes. You shouldn't take it as students
Mhm.
to come into the regular classes. We should give it suggesting to parents, you need a private lessons, not in regular classes.
Mhm.
Because he's gonna disturbing classes. It's not energy flowing, and he's gonna disturbing time to times, and we cannot focusing. Other students get losing concentration as well.
I think that's really important to kind of section out the people who are kind of distracting from the rest of the group. And I have what we call our Little Warriors program here at the school, which is typically for like 3 to 6 year olds, but sometimes I have to go a little higher depending on the kid because they're, a little like ADHD and can't really focus well.
Yeah.
And that's actually helped immensely because the Little Warriors program is like really focused on just having them stand at attention, say yes sir, bow, pass paddles with 2 hands, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Punching, kicking, they play a lot of games and they just try to keep it fun but really focused. And then when they get to the kids class, like my kids class, I can teach by myself, with a lot of kids on the floor because they're all like really well focused. And yet I've gone to other schools that I've worked at in the past, the kids class is like recess. Kids are just almost running around and screaming, and it's really disorganized.
Yeah.
And I think what happen is
But it's the time. We have a limited of time.
Yeah.
Limited over time and spaces and the instructors, and then so we recommend it to those who students get the private lessons.
Yeah.
And time to times until and be okay to come to the regular classes. And that's a good idea too. And you run the classes that way, and you can develop their attitude and other giving confidence and coordination, balances stuff. It's not really focusing to Taekwondo only. I have my students, a master, he's a pediatric neurologist, and he keeps sending his patient to my school. My son screaming, "No more send it, no more send it here," But he's thinking Taekwondo's going to help him. Taekwondo's going to help him. To parents, when you go walk into office, it's got Tobo and his whole huge pictures in his work waiting rooms, and my brochure there, everything say, "Go to Taekwondo, you can do it." I said, no, you can do it. the dilemma, but we can handle it. But that's why we Taekwondo become a Taekwondo master is our job is very, very professional. And we go to doctor's office, we see doctors for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, how much did they charge?
I know. Yeah.
$100 a list and 150, we don't do sometimes 2-3 minutes.
I know. Well, I feel like this job very difficult. You have
It
to
is.
be a good businessman. You have to be a good teacher. You have to be a good practitioner. I mean, martial arts itself brings together so many different disciplines, history, philosophy, kinesiology, you got linguistics with terminology and philosophy, self-defense, sport. There's so many things. I mean, it's a kind of bringing all these different disciplines together. And that's why it takes a long time to become a master instructor and, do a good job teaching, especially controlling those kids. Sometimes I think the parents don't really appreciate how difficult it is to have the kids all sitting at attention like that. Like, not just anyone can do that. Like, you have to really work for a long time in the industry to be able to get them.
Yeah, that's right. So all job is not easy.
Sir, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. You have so much wisdom to share with all of my students, and I'm sure they're going to get a lot out of this.
Students who's here, who's study with the Master Michael, and you're the very, very lucky. Wonderful instructors, masters. I know in whole almost a life, and you're so lucky. And let's build the Phoenix martial arts together, then stronger organization, and you will become a winner in your life too.
If you enjoyed that podcast, please consider liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel, as well as hitting the notification bell. We offer in-person, group, and private lessons at our facility in Kyle, Texas, as well as virtual lessons anywhere in the world. If you'd like to learn more about our programs, you can find us online at risingphoenixtkd.com.